Numbers have energy. And because of that, we are energetic beings. We can feel that, we connect with it. And that's why we have favorite numbers. That's why we have unlucky numbers. That's why our brain stops when we see a really cool license plate. Numbers are a lot of times the quickest way that a message can come to us because it stops what we're doing. Acceptance is not saying, oh, it's okay. No, acceptance is totally objective. And this is the 9. Acceptance, the 9, objectivity, the 9, has to come before the 1, before the moving on. I'll tell you mathematically first. 9 is an objective number. Anytime you add a number to 9, you get that number. 9 plus 4 equals 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4. And then anytime you multiply a number by 9, you get 9. You cannot mess with the 9.
Welcome to Reclaiming Consciousness. I'm Elise Bassine, trauma and breathwork expert and creator of the Metamorphosis Method, the only methodology bridging the gap between spiritual healing and clinical trauma work. For many years, our consciousness has been hijacked by societal and cultural programming, religion, the media, and familial and ancestral trauma. In this podcast, you'll discover my unique perspective on trauma healing and how it is the gateway to fully reclaiming your consciousness. You'll hear stories and teachings that expand your mind as you discover how every relationship challenge, business block, or limiting pattern is an invitation to reclaim the parts of your consciousness you unknowingly gave away. Get ready to go deep. Now let's dive in.
Is a numerologist, and she's way beyond a normal numerologist. I don't even know. I feel like this episode, we just touched the tip of the iceberg, and I want to have her back on the show because I feel like there's so much here. And I actually met Jessica at a retreat I was teaching at in Lake Tahoe, and we just immediately connected. And we have such an amazing conversation, and we talk about the numerology for 2026 and what that energy is and what you can expect. And then we also go deep into the crossover between numerology and inner child work, my work. And it's just profound. I'm obsessed with this episode, and I think you guys are going to love it. Really quick before we go into the episode. So on 11/11 at 4 p.m. Eastern, November 11th, I am hosting a masterclass called Trauma Healing Breathwork, Dissolve Core Wounds for Permanent Change, where I'm going to go really deep into how exactly I use breathwork to permanently heal trauma, specifically dissolve core wounds, which the core wound is that one thing, that one pattern, that one wound that shows up in every area of your life. If you're not as familiar with my work, I've been able to distill down pretty much everything that you experience as a challenge or a problem or a pattern into one thing, and then use my inner child healing process to dissolve it permanently. And a huge piece of that is the breath work and the specific way that I use breath work, which is different than anyone else. So I'm going to break that whole thing down and really how we go beyond using breath work as just, a peak experience or a way to move energy or a way to, get in your body, because it's great for all of those things. But it really has the power to bring up the deepest wounding from childhood that's impacting your life now and permanently shift it if you know how to use it that way. And that's what I'm going to be showing you and teaching in this masterclass. So it's definitely something you don't want to miss, because I've never taught anything in this way. I've never taught about my breathwork methodology in this way. It's something that usually the women in the certification get exposed to, and it's usually something that's way more behind the scenes. But I wanted to bring it forward because over time, I've really realized that no one is utilizing breathwork the way I am specifically for this specific purpose and using it in this very targeted way to shift trauma permanently, really quickly and efficiently. So if you work with clients at all, or you're just on your own personal growth journey, this is going to change the game for you, because it's going to simplify things and make things clear in a way that you probably haven't thought about ever before. I, over time, have really always asked myself this question of like, why so many people do so much healing work and really end up being in somewhat of the same place. And the reason why is because they are not accessing the core wound in the deepest way possible, and then also don't have the tools to navigate shifting it on their own in each moment in real time, because that's where the rubber meets the road, is being able to shift things on your own in real time when you get triggered or when you go into that negative thought pattern or when that thing comes up. That's what I'm going to break down in this masterclass. It's going to be super fun. You're going to have a 10-minute experiential breathwork session. It's not going to be a full breathwork session because a lot of it is going to be teaching and sharing and showing, but you don't want to miss this because I have never shared this information publicly or anywhere else. So it's $55. We're going to put the link below. Please reach out with any questions. And I can't wait to see you all there. Enjoy the episode with Jessica. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. So I'm like super, super excited for today's episode because we're going to go into numerology, which I don't think I've ever had a numerologist on the show. And especially not, I don't even want to like simplify you into a numerologist because I feel like you're so much more, but we'll get into that. So today we have Jessica Cerato on the show. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Been thinking about this since we first connected.
I know. So much fun. So we connected. So everyone knows we met at the retreat that I taught at in Lake Tahoe with Nicole. And we just, I don't know, we just instantly were like friends.
Yes. That's how the best relationships start. Just don't know exactly how or why. Just click.
Yeah, just instantly friends. And then I was like so sad that you were leaving like the next day because I was like, oh my God, wait, we're not going to get to hang out anymore? Like,
here we are. And here we are.
I know. So let's just start, maybe just kind of give us like the overview of who you are and kind of like how you got into this and just kind of like what it is that you do.
Yeah, I've always been a numbers girl. But for those of you listening and are like, numbers, let me shut off the podcast. Don't, because I will share with you that's changed for me much. So I grew up on the East Coast of the US, and throughout school, I was always fascinated with numbers, really loved math, didn't love the whole show my work kind of math, but I loved the patterns and what it felt for me in my body. And, at that time, I'd never even heard, I don't think, of a numerologist or someone who worked with numbers other than associating numbers with money. And so that's what I did. I studied business, I studied finance, and because of my proximity, the really place to work was Wall Street. So that's kind of where my career with numbers started. But the difference for me was intuition was always first. So energy first, strategy second. Although I didn't know it at the time, right? And so it was hard for me to explain. I was tapping into the energy of numbers. And it's what I do now. Fast forward, oh my goodness, let's not age me, 27 years from that moment. But really now I have the science and the math to back up what I have always felt, which is numbers have frequency. Numbers have energy. And because of that, we are energetic beings. We can feel that, we connect with it. And that's why we have favorite numbers. That's why we have unlucky numbers. That's why our brain stops when we see a really cool license plate. Or, when you go to the smoothie shop and 2 smoothies are $8.88 and you see the receipt and you're like, wow, it's not just a coincidence of the mind, it's an energy that you feel. And so that's really what numerology is. It is the energy of numbers. And again, to put anyone's mind at ease, it's a math and a science. Started way back when with Pythagoras, that guy, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But the cool thing, which I think a lot of people can resonate with, is he was actually studying music. And we know, of course, now when you hear a musical note, you hear the resonance, there's sound waves. And the longer a note is held, that is the numerical frequency underneath it. So he proved that numbers just like a sound wave or just that like a light wave. It oscillates or moves at a different rate per second. And so that's how we feel it. And so now in my work, I think numbers are the base, but it's not, of course, all that I do. Taking numbers, so the date of your birth, your age, where we are in the calendar, and use those as kind of starting points. And for me, it's always a starting point to get what we want, right? It's always like we're harnessing the energy of numbers to really get us closer to our goals and how we want to feel. So I work with people in that way now. And I guess the thing that is the same is it's energy first, strategy second. So I do bring a lot of strategy, of course, into it, but we always lead from energy because that's what it is.
Wow, I love that. I feel like I'm like that too with the energy first, strategy
Yes.
second. And I remember what we were talking about at the retreat too is like so much of it is pattern recognition. And I feel like that's all I do is pattern recognition. It's just in a different way. But I feel like there's something about that I think really informs like being able to get closer to what you want, right? Because it's like, what is the through line between what I'm experiencing now and like what I've experienced in the past? And like, how can I learn from that to create something new?
Yes, I love that. And this is a really great example with numbers. It's very obvious to spot repeating numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
888, 111. That's what everyone asks me, right? And so I would say when a pattern repeats itself enough, it becomes easier to spot it. But why wait till we repeat the pattern 10 times? Why wait until there are 10 ones in front of us? Like, can we spot that pattern the second time? And so I think that's what I love about your work too, because I can feel your energy and actually see your brain kind of moving when you're guiding people, whether they're speaking or breathing or just in that process of, okay, like we don't need to go on another loop of the pattern to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
You have that innately in you. And for me, it's like, well, because I know the other numbers coming next. It's math,
Mm-hmm.
it's science. Like, I don't need to wait for the pattern to repeat itself to know that it's a pattern. So, why not just stop it now? Why not interrupt it now and create what we want?
Yeah. So then like when you work with clients, like do you look at their birthday or like how would you look at like if I was like, okay, this is what I want or something, would you look at my
Yeah.
birthday and then would it also be like the what's going on right now numerologically?
Yeah. It's like astrological, numerological. Why did we pick the hardest words to
Yeah.
choose? Yeah. So it's both actually. And so there's universal energy, which you kind of just touched on, is it's what we all feel. It's just the weather that we're all experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's our personal numerology, which is based on our own date of birth. So from our date of birth, that's where our kind of pattern starts. And so we can calculate the chart. And just like a meteorologist can look at the weather, and you know how they use the Doppler radar and they can look 48 hours ahead or 72 hours ahead, we can do the same thing with your birth date. But
Mm-hmm.
instead of me, because like 2 days from now, let's go longer than that. Let's go out a year for you. Let's go out 7 years for you. Let's go out 10 years from you and see like what opportunities are coming your way. What is going to be your weather? So then you can choose what to do. And I just want to pause here and have everyone like just really bring this in because it is about free will. You have to choose. Doesn't matter what's in your path. If rain is in your path, you have a choice. Are you going to wear a raincoat? Are you going to get an umbrella? Are you going to stay inside? Are you going to go outside? Like, I'm not here to predict or fortune tell what will happen to you, although many of my clients say that I do. But what I'm really doing is I am sharing the possibility or the opportunity that I feel and see for you. And it is up to you to say yes. And then if you do say yes, that's when the strategy comes in. I'm like, okay, I know this is coming. Do I want that? Yes. Okay, what can we do in the meantime to put ourselves in the best position to meet that weather? So again,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like the analogy of like, okay, between now and the big snowstorm, which I'm saying yes to, what do I need to do to prepare for that? And whether that's a strategy in business, whether that's a strategy in your personal life, that's what we're preparing for. And in many cases, we don't need to wait for an opportunity. We can also play with timelines and bring it closer, which is actually what I love, which is what I love.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of, if we think about this energy of the grid lines kind of underneath the earth, or just in our life, if we're looking at latitude and longitude of where we are, and we see where we want to go. Everyone can, I'm laughing, not MapQuest. MapQuest is what I used to use when I was younger. What is it now? Just GPS, Google Maps, whatever. Okay. So you have your pin where you are, and then we pin where you want to go. And there is a path that a GPS can take you. Typically, it is the fastest route, and it tells you, well, how long it will take in typical conditions, right? But what we can do, if you think about all the latitude and longitude of being these squares, we can actually shrink the squares. And if we shrink the squares, what happens? It becomes closer and closer to you. And I will say that requires true resonance on the person's part to really want that. Like, I want that destination. And I laugh. I love it when people tell me what they want, because as soon as you tell me what you want, I know what we can do to get it to you faster. Because you're going there anyway. Let's just bring it closer.
Do you ever have, because I feel like I've had this experience sometimes with people when they tell me what they want, where I'm like, where it either feels like there's going to be a lot of detours before they get there, or based on my lens, which is a lot of through childhood trauma, a lot of times I will be able to feel like, oh, well, they want that, but it's coming from a place of wounding. Like, it's not coming from a place of that's truly in resonance for them. Maybe it's coming from a place of, well, if I have this, then I'll feel good enough, or I want this so I can prove that I'm valuable or whatever. Like, do you ever, what do you think about that?
So this is so fascinating, because this is why I do love having the personal numerology. So in our chart, there are indicators, what we are motivated by, how we connect with people. I mean, people ask, like, what could you answer with numerology? And my answer is, like, anything. There's no part that we can't really go. It's just a matter of bringing pieces of the chart together. So for example, when a client comes to me and they say, I want money, and I look at their chart and I see, they're coded for connection. Relationship is first. I know you're saying you want money, but to what end? And then, just as you say, it comes out, well, I want money so that my dad will be proud of me. And I'm like, aha, okay. So money is the way you think you're going to get there. But if the end result is you want mom or dad to be proud of you, it becomes a different ball game. And so I think that's always the first thing that I love to do with people is, outwardly we're saying what we want, but what are we coded for? And they're just choosing one way to get there, but that's just one way. There are other paths you can take. And maybe getting money, I would say in that instance, will not even get them the end result. Now, it doesn't mean that we still can't make them money. It doesn't mean that they are still not, that could be a goal of theirs, but understanding like what you're truly coded for in your DNA based on the numbers that are existent within you really helps me with that. And you do it really well. And the way we get there is just by asking questions. And also, I think you know this too. Yes, I can look at their chart, but there are also times when people tell me they want something and my body's like, really? Like, okay, I'm glad you sound so confident in that. And I am unsure. So I have learned to follow that ping. In the beginning of my career, I would say I would go to the chart and rely on it and be like, no. But now I feel that intuitive ping, I go with it. And then we reference the chart and we're like, oh, yeah. This is not
so when you say the chart, are you looking at their like astrology too? And then, because I know with like with numerology, there's like your number, right? Like your life number or something, but then there's also like the numbers of the year, like your year or whatever. What's the
Yeah,
difference with
there's
all that?
so much. So I want everyone to think of a tic-tac-toe, right? So a tic-tac-toe has 9 spaces. And if you start in the bottom left-hand corner, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that bottom row are physical numbers. That middle row are emotional numbers. And that top row are mental numbers. And then on the other, we have feminine, masculine, right? So if you think about your date of birth, no one has a perfectly balanced chart. Why? Because the maximum number we can have are 8. So like if anyone thinks they have a perfect chart, that is impossible. There will always be a blank spot, right? And many of us don't even have 8 numbers because we have zeros in there too for some of our birth dates. So we add all of those numbers together and we get the ruling number. Some people, you might have heard it as a life path. So that's that overarching number. And then we start to peel back the layers. So the 2 numbers that you add together to get that are kind of your 2 challenges. If you really embrace them, you'll become the fullest expression of that number. But then we also go to that grid. So we place all of the numbers of your birth date into that grid. And that's where we look for arrows. We look for tic-tac-toes. We look for those repeating numbers. And those are the tools that you kind of have in your toolbox. So some people have an arrow of the planner. So they're really good at planning. I don't have that. I'm like, that's not a great example.
I don't think I have that either.
No, you don't. These are where my energy is flowing the best. Okay. And then, of course, underneath it, we have when we are born, we come into a cycle. So we have yearly cycles, 7-year cycles, 13-year cycles. And this is where the astrology comes in. So our first 13 years of life is ruled by Mercury, right? The mind, communication, figuring it out, what we think. 13 to 26, those ages are ruled by Venus. So how we connect with people. So you can see around that 12, 13-year-old mark, how many of us Venus becomes so much more important to us that we sometimes abandon what we think, right? Because we want to belong, right?
Yeah.
And so, we can kind of go through those. Then it becomes Mars. It becomes about work. Then it becomes Jupiter, about expansion and self-discovery. So astrology and numerology, I get this question asked a lot. I think I have a annoying answer to some, but they say, well, what comes first, numerology or astrology? What's the origin? And my answer is, I don't care, because they work together, the stars and the numbers underneath those. Yeah, to answer your chart, like there's so many intersections of where we are in our chart. And then the true intersection is really like the deck of playing cards. So,
right? I remember you talked about that. Yeah. And that's something I know nothing about. I'm just starting to put things together, like as you're talking to, with just my own birth chart. It's interesting because in the last, I would say like year or so, maybe, basically the number that I see all the time is 9/11, which at first I was like, why am I seeing this? Like, is this like an emergency? Like, is this bad? Like, what is this? But I literally see it all the time. And then we also found out that that's going to be the date of my son's bar mitzvah. But I also still see it. And I actually like looked it up, and I think it was like actually like, I forget exactly what it said, but it's just interesting because now I'm thinking about that in terms of my birth date numbers. And just seeing the connections. So I'm just kind of like going through all these connections in my brain.
I love that. I love that, the question. So if anyone, for me, like the 9/11, for me, that is like every ending is a beginning. What is that song? Every new beginning is just some other beginning's end. Like to remind you of, because the 9 is technically the end and then the 1 is the new beginning. And there's so many other interpretations we could play with there. But really, if you are seeing these repeating numbers, just like you did, like notice it, take like record of it, write it down, and maybe jot down some things that you were doing or feeling when that came in, because numbers are a lot of times the quickest way that a message can come to us because it stops what we're doing. Like we notice it. And it's like, oh, wait, what? And so a lot of times it's not necessarily about the meaning of the number. It's the fact that it's catching our attention for something to interrupt what we're thinking or feeling, or just remind us of that. And, this might make me sound even worse as a numerologist, but I get a lot of numbers and a lot of times I don't know what they mean in the moment. So I take my own advice here. And the best story I could ever tell is for months, I got 1025, 1025, 1025. It's not in my birthday. Don't have a two. Like I had no idea. So I just kept on writing it down and noticing it. I was working with a client and it was coming to a really tough business decision. And all of a sudden, I was just helping them and I was typing out an address for one of their locations, 1025. And I was like, sell that. They were like, no. And I'm like, yes. Fast forward, what they thought they couldn't sell ended up what actually kept their business alive. There was a stream of events that happened from there, right? And so maybe it wasn't what 1025 meant. It was if I had not seen and felt and heard that multiple times, I just would have typed the address. It's not a really weird number. It's just, so I just share that story of like, sometimes it could be that. And as soon as that happened, I've not seen that number since. Just like, okay, great, thanks.
That's so funny. I love that because I feel that way too. I feel like I'm kind of, especially with numbers, I'm always like noticing them, but I don't necessarily make a meaning out of it. I just kind of like notice it. And then with this one in particular, it gets to the point, and this happens to me a lot with things, not just numbers, but like just like synchronicities or things that I notice, where then it almost becomes like a exaggerated like joke where I'm like, of course, like literally I don't see any other, like anytime I look at the clock, it's that number. Like there's no other time that exists now. And every time I know, especially if it's like getting ready for bed or something, like it's like I look over and it's like, it's like I already know it's going to be that. It's like, it's annoying at this point.
Totally. Totally. And I just laugh, like this just reminds me of like how we've probably all done this at a time in our life where we would call in something so that we could do something else, so that we would call in a number so that we could make a wish. Like I remember sitting in my family's living room on the floor just staring at the VCR, like waiting for it to turn like 111 so then I could make a wish for like a boyfriend or something, whatever. But I just love that we're always coded to that. And when people tell me they see numbers on the clock a lot, our logical brain says, well, yeah, because now we can tell the time on our phone and we're looking at our phone more. But like I said, that we did it when there was a VCR. Like we've always done this. So it's not the technology. It's just that I think we're tuning into our energy.
I think it's like also the way that we engage with like the field, like the way that we dance like with reality, because I think that the more you do that, the more you see things, and the more things get reflected back to you. Like one of the things I always notice too is I'll have this happen a lot where like I'll be writing or typing a word and then like someone like says that word as I'm typing it or writing it, like that type of thing too. And to me, that's kind of the same thing where I'm like, it's kind of like this little like reminder of like your like connection to everything, or that you are guided or something. Yeah.
And I love that because right away I hear a question of someone listening being like, well, how do I get more connected? And it actually feels like we'll celebrate the connection. So when you see that word or you see that number or anyone sees a word or a number, really take a moment to kind of celebrate that. It doesn't have to be a big way, but like, oh, that's really fun. Because obviously if it's a message coming to you, the message doesn't want to fall on deaf ears, right? It wants to come to people who are willing to hear it, but also who are willing to have a bit of fun with it. So that's actually why I love where you're now kind of even groaning or being like, of course, the 9/11 is here again, because that's actually why it's coming to you more and more, because the energy does love. Just think of like what happens in our energy when we laugh, when we have fun. the energy shifts and that energy likes to play, right?
Yeah.
So when we get so serious sometimes, we're like, what does this mean? It's like the buzzkill of like, instead of being
Right.
like, oh my gosh, 444, amazing.
Yeah. And then I feel like it just is kind of like an opening of like, okay, well, I might not know exactly what this means right at this moment, but it's kind of like just a stop on the path, or it's just kind of like a marker of like, okay, this happened. And now I'm like going to like take that and put it in my pocket. And then like,
Yeah,
I'll know when I need it or something like that.
totally. It's like a little
Yeah.
wink. Like I'm
Yeah.
on your team. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love that. And it's interesting too, because I think that in terms of like what you said about numerology and astrology, to me, I feel like, well, didn't they always both exist or
Yes.
something? Like,
Yes. Yes. It's like not, yes. When were they discovered? Right.
yeah.
Like, and I love that because if you just think about nature,
Hmm.
how many numbers exist in nature? How many colors in a rainbow? 7. How many spider legs? 8. And the same with like the moon and the stars and all of these. These are not human inventions. They are
Mm-mm.
human discoveries,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I guess I know we wanted to talk about too, and we can kind of weave this in and out of just, what is your kind of interpretation of where we're at currently, just from like a
I
numerology
got
perspective?
I love that like we're talking right now. So right now we're in October of 2025. Even if you hear this a few weeks later, it doesn't matter. But October mathematically is always going to be a preview of the next year's energy. This is why in October of every year, we start planning and really starting to get this nudge of like, okay, let me get my act together a little bit so I'm ready for Q1, whatever that is. So in
Mhm.
this particular year, we are in a one energy month right now. It means that 2026 is a one energy year. So 2 plus
Mm.
0 plus 2 plus 6. And this is huge because it's a brand new cycle. 2025 is the completion, it's the 9. And we started this cycle in 2017. So 2017
Mm.
to 2025, we are closing the door on this chapter. And if you can just feel into like what
I just
all
got
has
chills
happened.
like all over my body.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like
Wow.
a huge moment in time. And October is giving us glimpses of the energy that's coming. And because it is the energy of one, it is really asking us to say yes to what matters. We think about every number has an empowered energy, right? Just like a music note has maybe a sharp, right? And has a flat
Mhm.
side too, a
Mhm.
disempowered side, right? So right now, the one is saying, like, say yes to yourself, redefine what it means to be selfish. What do you want? Innovation, move forward, clean slate. And the
Mm.
disempowered side feels really lonely. It feels really isolated, feeling disconnected. But you're feeling disconnected because you're outgrowing the spaces where you once felt connected. And so, and it's a very physical number. So one is on the physical plane. So this also may be coming for people with these like physical disruptions. It's like,
Mm.
I want to go here. Say, you're saying this. Yes, this is a yes. And then the universe comes with a flat tire and is like, are you sure? And that flat tire is not telling you this is not where you want to go. The purpose of the flat tire is saying exactly what I said. Are you sure? Because if you
Mhm.
are sure, you will say yes. You'll get an Uber, you'll go in a taxi, you'll fix the tire. But here's the thing, when you get that flat tire and you really didn't want to go in the first place, it's like, oh, I can't go. Flat tire. Guess
Right.
I'm not meant to go. Thank you, universe. But that's not what the universe is saying. It's just trying to really make you sure of your yes. And
Mm.
as we head into November, the energy shifts to a 2. So it's more of this connection. It's a bit more emotional, intuitive, where the truth is really going to be important in your communication, not just with others, but with yourself. And so how this relates back to you is I was really thinking about this is like the one is where we all began. Like, yes, we are getting older chronologically, but whenever there's a one energy, it always brings us back to where we started. And many times that's the inner child. And so the inner child work is becoming so important because we're now facing a new cycle and we can decide differently if we have the tools to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will stay attached, right? If you think about a disempowered side of the one is attachment to the past. And our brain's like, well, there's nothing before the one. How is that possible? It's like, no, you're attached to the 9 in the previous cycle. And the 9 is all about expectations. So right now, I would say if you're not saying yes, or you're not feeling like you can move forward, you are somehow attached to this previous cycle. And many times it is not the actual thing that you're attached to. So, because the things that happened could be good or bad, it doesn't really matter. But it's more about the expectation of how you thought it would turn out. I thought, I don't know how you feel about this. Oh, now that I'm super curious, do you ever feel that way with inner child? Is like part of the resistance or part of what we hold on to is because we thought it would have been different or we hoped it would have been different?
I
Yeah.
love
Okay. So
this.
can you
Okay,
say
let
this?
me
Because
just,
this is so
I
interesting.
talk about this a lot. So one of the things that can trip people up a lot in the process of healing the inner child is that we get stuck in this cycle of, you might have heard me say this at the retreat. I don't know if you were still there, but I'm pretty sure I said it. It's like this archetype of the kid, and I would see this when I was a school counselor, the kid who is in this fantasy that his dad's going to come back when like his dad's not coming back. So it's like you as an adult or this younger part of you is like still in this fantasy that at some point your parent is going to finally acknowledge you or finally say that you're good enough so that you can move on. And a lot of people are like in this cycle of they don't want to move on, or they're waiting for permission, or they're waiting for somebody, aka their parent, to finally tell them that they see them or they acknowledge them or they're good enough or they have permission to be who they are. And it's like this unconscious cycle that keeps you stuck waiting, right? Because you're still wanting, because essentially you're saying like, it should have been different, right? And the medicine for that is that we have to face that our parent is never going to do that, that they didn't have the capacity to do that. And then you have to grieve that, right? You have to grieve that because it was something that you wanted that is never going to happen. And you really have to look that right in the eyes and say, this is not happening. And I have to face that. I have to face the reality that I'm not going to get that. And as you like walk yourself through that process of grief, you actually are able to give that to yourself, like through that process, because you really walk yourself through that and it creates this like alchemy. So it's so interesting you brought that up because that's something I see with people all the time. Or there's this other thing too, where if they think that if they move on, then it's like letting the person off the hook that hurt them. So they don't want to move on because that would mean that what was done to them was okay. So that's like a kind of another way that it shows up.
And I think that's, thank you for, because that just brings like this beautiful action item into what we can all do right now in terms of timing, is to take a moment to reflect on 2017 to 2025. And just as you said, all of the things that happened, now I'm getting chills, all of the things that didn't happen, take the time to grieve that as you move into acceptance of it. And I love how you say this because acceptance is not saying, oh, it's okay. No, acceptance is totally objective. This is the 9. So this acceptance, the 9, objectivity, the 9, has to come before the 1, before the moving on. And here's why. I'll tell you mathematically first. 9 is an objective number. Anytime you add a number to 9, you get that number. 9 plus 4 equals 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4. 9 plus 7 equals 16. 1 plus 6 equals 7. Anytime, I promise you. And then anytime you multiply a number by 9, you get 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. 9 times 3, 27. 2 plus 7 is 9. Okay. So it is objective of objectives. Like it does not, like you cannot mess with the 9. And so acceptance is objectivity, is detaching, again, what you think should or not have should happen, that emotion, and really just leaning into like the objective information that you have. And, I love this. My daughter is a 9. So she's a ruling number 9. And she has done this in a way that still blows my mind. And so I just want to share this story because for me, this is like what true acceptance is. So this is a few summers ago. And I remember she was asking my husband, hey, do you want to go play tennis with me? And he looked at her and he was like, nope. And here's me, the mom on the other side of the room being like, what the? Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. And also like my husband doesn't do what he doesn't want to do. Like this is just, anyway. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, you're going to mess her up. Like all these things.
Yeah.
She just looks at him and she goes, okay, well then what do you want to do with me then? And he looked at her and he was like, oh, well, there's this coding thing. Do you want to do that? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. So when he answered her, no, I don't want to play tennis with you, most of us would take that to mean we would focus on the you part and we would say, he doesn't want to play with me.
Yeah, rejection.
Rejection. That is a subjective observation and interpretation of what he said. She took it like a 9 and took it objectively and was like, he does not want to play tennis with me. Okay. So I just share that example because if we can instill that in our mind, and whenever we have a situation where even if we think we're being objective, can we just ask ourselves, like, is this really the meaning of this? Or am I attaching any of my stuff to that? And becoming and accepting of it, really looking at it objectively, again, is not saying it's good or bad. Oh, it's okay that you did that to me or not. Because it's so objective, that can help us move on.
No, it's just funny because now I'm kind of relating all this to the inner child. And
yes, well, that's where I'm going too.
Yeah.
I'm like, if this is a sign that you need to, if you have not yet worked with Elise on your inner child, this is the time from a numerological expert and an energy expert. This is the best time to work with Elise.
Oh my God,
right
I love
now.
this. I love this. I know. I feel like we should teach a workshop together or something. Like I always tell people that, and this has happened to me, and I can share a quick story, but I always tell people that largely in order to change a relationship with anyone, you don't need to ever talk to them about it. You can simply reconcile it within yourself and it changes. And I've seen it so many times with people, especially with their moms. And I tell people, you can get to this place of neutrality where you just see them for who they are, or you accept them for who they are, and you don't need anything from them, and I had this great experience this past Rosh Hashanah at my parents' house. And my mom can get a little nutty whenever she has people over. She like loses her shit for whatever reason. And that usually historically would bother me, and it's gotten less and less and less. And like this year, I literally just came in and like, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I just so neutrally like moved her out of the way. She's like a featherweight. She's like 5 feet tall. I'm just like, go here, mom, move. And I just like took over everything. And I usually do that, but usually I'll be like, God, she's so crazy. Like, and this year I would say I've found like 99% neutrality where it's just like, it's almost the feeling of like, how like if a baby was crying or a 4-year-old was like crying, you'd be like, oh, she's probably needs a nap. Let's just go put her upstairs. It's like that kind of a feeling towards her where I'm just like, oh yeah, that's who she is. That's her capacity or whatever. And like, I've largely never had a conversation with my mom about most of this stuff. She's a great person, but most of my issues with her were just my own triggers around, what I didn't get from her and all that stuff. And it's really clear to the point where I have that 9, that acceptance and that objectivity where it don't really have a charge around it anymore. And that to me is what's possible through this work, is getting to that place of acceptance.
Yeah, I love that. And so it's if you think about the growth on a tree ring, it's 1 through 9. And it's just and so when you're able to be objective and move on to the next cycle, you can expand into so many different things. I'm just thinking of you of being able to be so objective about that and neutral, bring that neutrality in. It opens up your bandwidth for other things that normally would be taken by that.
Yeah, because
So,
the energy that it takes for you to go into that trigger and that emotional reaction, it makes it so that you can't be present, you can't connect with other people, your creativity is blocked, you're angry or whatever, you probably have one too many glasses of wine, whatever it is, it takes something out of you. Whereas when you're in neutrality, it's you're clear, and you can be so much more present. And I'm just thinking too, how cool it would be to take the numbers 1 through 9 and associate them with the inner child healing process.
woo!
And how that would be so cool, because I feel did I do that when you were there at the retreat,
No.
inner child healing process?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't think we fully went into it, but I have it as 6 steps. Actually, I call it 5 steps to make it sound good, but it's actually 6.
Who wants to do it? Okay, we can talk about this, but we cannot market it as 9 steps to your, because that's too many.
Well, it's funny too, because I called it 5 steps, and then Matt was my husband was creating the PDF for it. And I remember the one day he's this is 6 steps, right? And
make it fit into 5.
I was okay, but we're just going to call it 5, because no one wants to do a 6-step process. That just doesn't sound good.
No, but I love that actually you landed on the 5 also, because the 5 is the heart. So the 5 is the part of the tic-tac-toe board. It's the middle piece that's connected to all the other pieces. And so I think that's people's thresholds for how far they're willing to go for the next level, right? But it also is energetically the 5 is the choice point. So kind of after that, you have a choice to go deeper or move on. The 6 is also slow. So sometimes for me, I'm 6, too long.
Yeah. I think this is a 7 year for me, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because I remember the 6th year, I was this ain't it.
Yeah. And so if anyone's wanting to calculate their personal year, you can do that by taking your month plus your day of birth and then add it to the current year.
Okay, so then that's the year for now, but then your
in
life
2026
year would be your whole birth date, which I think mine's an 8. I think mine's an 8. Yeah. I think I already knew that.
Yeah. And I'm a 11. There's a school of thought that has come maybe more modernized, where the life paths are 1 through 9. But in my work and the work of Pythagoras, we are all 1. So no one can be a life path 1. I'm laughing. I'm the inventor of the life path 1 through 9 was definitely a 1. Actually, don't tell them that they're a 10, because the way I work, the ruling numbers life paths go 2 to 11. And so, and so once you kind of get that number, that is kind of this overarching energy that you carry, just kind of like your sun sign in astrology. And then the rising sign would equate to the 2 numbers underneath it. The numbers that.
So when you say the 2 numbers underneath it, do you mean the
2 numbers you get right before you get 8?
Okay, so 3 and 5 is mine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and those are the things that are coming together.
Yeah. So for you, I would say this 8, if you think about the 8, it's the only closed number. So it doesn't have an opening, right? It's the only one. So that is a very fierce independence, where you can and are able to do things on your own. Now, 2 things happen. People really feel that from you, and they're oh, hey, Elise, can you do this? Okay. But also people will not offer you unsolicited help because they feel that energy of like, she can do it. Like, why does she need my help? It doesn't mean that they don't care about you. They feel that energy, so they're not going to offer first. Yeah.
I'm just laughing because, like, the funny thing is, like, I never ask anyone for their, like, opinion about anything because, like, I don't want to say I don't care.
But
There's certain, yeah, I already know. And, like, but the annoying part from, like, an inner child perspective is, like, I don't think ever in my life I've ever asked my mom for, like, advice about anything or, like, what do you think I should do or whatever. Maybe little points when I first had kids or whatever, like, maybe. But also what I think that led to is my parents just, they have this view of me of like, she knows what she's going to do. Or even worse than that is like, they ask me for advice and like me to help them. And I'm just like, cool.
Yeah. Because you have the capacity, right? All the energy is within you. They feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is like sometimes the two sides of the 8 come into play where it's like you have both the grace of an angel and the strength of a lion, these like two pieces. And the key is not to like fight them against each other, but allow them to like both come in, to allow the grace and the fire, depending on the situation. And the 3 and the 5 really speak to like, if you can allow yourself to be creative and work from the heart rather than the mind, you will be like embodied in your success. And so, but your problem, just kidding, is you have a really strong mind. So for you, you have a really strong mind and a really strong heart. And when you hear that, you might be thinking, that's great. I have like 2 strong wisdom centers. But what happens is with the 8 is they tug of war. And if you think about 2 equal centers, no one wins that tug of war. You just get tired because you're just pulling against each other all the time. So the only way to really win, quote unquote, is to drop the rope, is to like, not have your mind and heart compete against each other, but like join forces and work together.
That's so interesting. I actually think about this concept a lot, I feel like, when it comes to business stuff, because I think that naturally when you have an online business, you kind of have to become a student of marketing and all that stuff. And even though that's not something I think we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
It's not something like I want to be good at or something, but then like objectively people will tell me like, oh my God, you're so good at like whatever. And I'm like, that's just like something I had. It's like, when you have a baby, you have to learn to change a diaper. No one's like, oh, I'm so good at changing diapers. Like that's what it is. That's what you have to do, However, sometimes what I find is that sometimes finding that balance between like the strategy and just like that inspiration, really trying to like put those 2 things together in a way that makes sense. But then sometimes it's like one side kind of like leads or wins out or something like that, where sometimes it feels like there's a war there or something a little bit. But I think when I feel really good is when I'm able to let those 2 things really come together and coalesce, but it doesn't always happen that way all the time,
all the time. And I think that's why that's such an important thing to remember, especially when we look to other people who do similar things to us. Their energy is coded so differently than ours innately, right? I can give you examples of successful business women who are both successful, but their charts are so different. And if they were to try to copy each other's strategy, or, a lot of times I do get people coming to me and they're saying, like, I follow this strategy like to a T and it's not working. And then I look at their chart and I'm like, well, dude, because like you don't have that. Like, and that's okay. You just need to really like embrace who you are, because there is this undeniable force in business, which is energy.
Yeah.
Which when you hire someone because you feel it, or right. And we know that about other people. And so can we embrace that about ourselves? There's these unseen part of us that is working to our advantage always because it wants the best for us. And if we try to hide that down, the people who are meant to find us won't. And we might have the best strategy in the world, but if we're not allowing our energy to come through, the energy is the magnetizer, especially now in a world where strategy feels like sometimes a dime a dozen. And also, like, if I want to know a strategy, you can ask
You can
ChatGPT,
chat
right?
GPT.
Yeah, like,
Exactly.
I mean, you can Google that. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
energy that can't be replicated.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
I think I learned, like, I don't know, probably year 3 in business. I'm like, oh, this is not a formula. Like, everyone has to figure out their own formula. This is not something that you can just, oh, let me just like apply this thing and it's really like something you have to like pioneer on
You
your
do.
own. And that's what I always say with like when I teach the inner child healing process. I just gave this whole speech today to the group that I'm leading, that like, you have to be willing to like be a student of yourself and like take everything that you learn and like integrate it and like apply it in a way that's going to work for you, and get really curious about what that is, and like be willing to try things and be willing to for things not to work, and just be willing to like do all of these things that you learn from, so you can distill down your own way of doing things that's going to work for you, because everybody is so different. And like, I've watched so many of my clients take the process and then like make it their own or do something in their own way, and it really works for them. And it's like, that's what it is. Like, you can't just replicate something. You have to take it and make it your own.
And that it's so funny. This is like such a what you just said is so full circle, because I think this is also what attracted me to numbers is Pythagoras. When he was first discovering this, he opened up a university. So this is BC in Italy. For 4 years, the only thing you could do was study yourself based on your date of birth.
Oh my God. I love that.
It was, I'm translating it into English, but it was called like the University of You. Imagine if we went to university, oh my gosh, and our major that we chose was ourselves.
Well, like, that's what we all should be doing anyway. Like, like, that's really like, what else are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's funny because over the weekend at the retreat, it's very intense at times. There was 14 people and I'm helping them all process. And and I probably shouldn't be, but I still find myself at times like quasi apologizing for how intense it is, because I know it's intense for people, you know? But then I was like, you know, I try to make jokes to lighten up the energy. And at one point I'm like, you know, I appreciate all you guys, you know, being willing to be so open and all of these things. And I was like, and I know some of you came here thinking you were just going to relax all weekend. But I was like, but if we're not talking about this stuff, then like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why would we not be going here? Because this is where the change happens, you know? It's like, I say that to say, like, we should all be going to the University of You. Like, that's the only place that the real information is.
Absolutely. That in itself is a huge pattern interrupt. Committing to that.
100%. Yeah. And it's hard too. Like, it's not easy.
No.
As I always say, it's not for the faint of heart.
Hard. I know. I can't imagine anyone else studying me. Oh my gosh, that would be hard. Don't do not come in here with that.
I know. Oh my God, I'm so sad that we're like at time.
Oh
maybe
just look at the time. I was like, oh,
that happened. But I guess maybe we could end with, well, first of all, I know we're coming into a 1 year, but anything else that like we should know to kind of like prepare for the energy for like the end of this year, beginning of next year. And then after that, maybe just share how people can find you and all of that stuff.
I will share a little bit in November. You know, that energy I was saying, like, are you sure? That flat tire analogy. You know, I'm not an ominous person, but I do feel some turbulence happening in November of things getting shaken up a little bit. And I just want to remind everyone that it's not the turbulence, it's how we respond to the turbulence, right? Because, you know, just think about yourself on a plane and you experience turbulence. We've all probably had that experience in some part in our life. You can look around the plane and some people are sleeping, literally sleeping, and other people are like white knuckling, like, right? And there's a whole spectrum in between. So the turbulence is not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. It's not a sign to not go that way. It is simply a rejigging, like a re-energizing of an energy. It's just creating a few bumps in the road that will settle in December. And in December, I'm really excited for everybody because it feels like something from back in March will come in a beautiful full circle for you, or you will see kind of a result of prioritizing yourself in a way that just like crystallizes the end of the year. And so when I see this kind of toast on New Year's Eve, I encourage everyone to toast to themselves first and really like close out, like I said, that 2017 to 2025, and also like ring in this new cycle. And because it's a one next year, I also want to let everyone know it's okay if you don't know. It's okay if your plan isn't 1,000 steps and you know exactly what's coming after this. The universe doesn't expect you to. It's a one energy for a reason. Like you're getting these ideas, like the best ideas and inspirations and innovations come with a one because you're not basing it on anything. It's coming from the energy. So allow yourself to go with those ideas and allow yourself to really enjoy an idea before immediately going to the how, because the how is going to become clear as you go through the year. And yeah, so that's what I would say, that the end of this year will feel very fast. Like Q4 is going to move really fast. And then I feel we're going to come into 2026 and everyone's going to be like, okay, I got to know exactly what I'm going to, it's January 3rd. Come on. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
you got till, I didn't even do the math. What's the end of this cycle is 34. Yeah. You've got till 2034, people.
Oh, all right. We're good. We're good.
You're so good.
Oh my God. I love this too, because I feel like what I see with clients and sometimes with myself too is like when you get an idea, like instead of just like being in that inspiration, immediately you'll go into like how you're going to execute it and then get overwhelmed and just like squash it.
You're not. Yeah.
And I was talking about this earlier with a client. Like I've learned largely to like just kind of let them settle, because usually a lot of times it'll come in and then I can feel energetically that it's like out here. And I just have to kind of like walk towards that closer. I'll know like what the first step is, you know?
Exactly.
So I like to think of it like that, because if you try to think of all the steps, like you just get overwhelmed and you don't want to do anything.
Yeah, agreed. I love that.
Yeah. I feel like we have to have another, we're going to have you on again, because I feel like we have so much more to talk about.
Oh, we could always talk more. Yeah. And if anyone is curious about getting an energetic weather forecast, I have a free calendar. Just come onto my website. You can grab it and it goes day by day. So just like imagine a meteorologist is telling you the weather. I'm going to share with you the weather, all the options, like I said, the empowered, the disempowered side, and the best things to do to harness that energy. And in the calendar, if you have a business, it also talks about the content that's going to convert on those days, right? Because we know what the collective energy, we know what the collective energy is feeling. Okay, so then how can you, taking your own business or services or products into account, how can you speak to that? And I can say that, you know, my clients range from spiritual entrepreneurs to a large online retailer and a fast food restaurant chain. And all of them use the calendar, obviously, for their own product. Yeah, grab it. Yeah.
Well, I'm on your like newsletter or your like.
I'll send you. Yeah, I'll sign you up for the calendar
or whatever. Yeah. Well, I remember when we were at the retreat and you were like, I do an energy forecast, and I'm like, I love an energy forecast.
Sign me up.
Laughing at me, and I'm like, why is that funny? Like, who doesn't love an energy forecast? I guess I'm the only one. I thought everyone loved them. I don't know. But yeah, we'll have to get that. And we'll link all of that stuff below and your Instagram and everything. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I know everyone's going to love it. Yeah, Thank you.
We'll keep our mind going with how the numbers connect to the inner child. I love that idea.
I'm obsessed with that idea.
We'll come up with something. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll let it flow. We're not going to go to the how today. We're going to take our own advice.
No, definitely
let
not.
The idea be fun and percolate.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to follow the show on Apple or Spotify, leave a review, and share the show with your friends who you know are yearning for this type of content. When you leave a review, send us a screenshot and we'll send you a $250 credit that you can apply to joining anything new in my world. You can stay connected with me by following me on Instagram at Elise_breathes. Make sure you download my clear trauma cheat sheet at EliseBreathes.com. See you next time.